For centuries, cultures across the globe creating rituals to honor the deceased, ensure their journey to the afterlife, or even protect the living from their spirits. But not all of these rituals are what you'd call peaceful. Some involve consuming the dead, others mutilating them, and a few take the living along for the ride. To outsiders, they may seem macabre, grotesque, even unthinkable. But to the people who practiced them, they held deep spiritual significance. Let's begin with a practice that is deeply rooted in tradition and belief: ritual cannibalism. To many, this may sound shocking, but for certain cultures, it was an act of love and respect. One notable example is the Fore tribe of Papua New Guinea. For generations, they practiced endocannibalism, which involved consuming parts of their deceased loved ones. But why would they do this? In their belief system, the physical body wasn't just a shell. It carried the essence and spirit of the person who passed away. By incorporating that essence into their own bodies, they felt they could keep the spirit of their loved one alive and close. This ritual wasn't about nourishment, but about connection. It was their way of showing gratitude and ensuring the deceased remained part of the community, both spiritually and physically. To them, burying or burning the body would have been seen as abandoning their loved one. However, this practice had unintended consequences. Over time, a condition known as kuru emerged among the Fore people. This rare illness affected the nervous system, leading to challenges with movement and speech. When its origins were linked to their ritual, the practice slowly faded, replaced by alternative ways to honor the deceased. Though it's difficult to imagine such a tradition, it's important to remember that for the Fore tribe, this was an act of love and reverence, not something done lightly or without deep meaning. In the mountains of Tibet, where the sky burial remains a deeply spiritual tradition. This practice reflects the Buddhist belief in the impermanence of the body and the enduring nature of the soul. When someone passes away, their body is not preserved or buried in the ground. Instead, it is prepared and taken to a high, open space in the mountains. Here, the body is offered to the natural world as a final act of giving. Monks chant prayers and conduct rituals to guide the soul on its journey to the afterlife. The process is symbolic. By offering the body to birds and other elements of nature, Tibetan Buddhists believe they are completing the cycle of life. The body nourishes other living beings, just as nature sustained the person in life. To those unfamiliar with this tradition, the idea may feel unusual, but for the Tibetan people, it is a gesture of selflessness and a reminder that all life is interconnected. The practice carries no fear or hesitation, only acceptance and reverence. This ritual also solves a practical challenge. In Tibet's high-altitude regions, the rocky ground makes burial difficult, and the lack of trees limits options for cremation. The sky burial aligns perfectly with the environment and spiritual beliefs of the region. By embracing this tradition, Tibetan Buddhists demonstrate how the end of one life can support the continuation of others, turning what some might see as a moment of loss into an act of generosity and renewal. The Amazon rainforest, home to the Yanomami tribe, where another remarkable tradition takes place: endocannibalism. Unlike the Fore tribe, whose rituals involved consuming physical remains, the Yanomami practice is centered around ashes. When a member of the Yanomami community passes away, their body is cremated and the ashes are carefully collected. These ashes are then mixed with food or drinks and consumed by the family members. To the Yanomami, this isn't a moment of sadness, but one of spiritual union. The reasoning is profound. The Yanomami believe that consuming the ashes allows the deceased spirit to live on within their loved ones. It creates a bond that transcends death, ensuring the departed remain a part of the family forever. This ritual is often accompanied by prayers and storytelling, celebrating the life of the deceased and reaffirming their connection to the living. Though it might feel unfamiliar to outsiders, for the Yanomami, it's a sacred and deeply meaningful act, a way to honor their loved ones and maintain unity within the community. In Japan, where an extraordinary and deeply spiritual ritual took place, self-mummification. This practice, known as sokushinbutsu, was carried out by Buddhist monks who sought enlightenment in the most disciplined way imaginable. The journey to self-mummification was one of immense dedication. The process began years before death, as monks adopted a strict diet called mokuji-kigyo, or tree-eating practice. They consumed only nuts, seeds, and tree bark, while abstaining from grains and other rich foods. This diet served two purposes. It prepared their bodies for preservation and symbolized detachment from worldly desires. Over time, they further restricted their diet, eventually subsisting only on water and small amounts of herbs. This grueling regimen not only reduced their body fat, but also prevented decay after death, as the lack of nutrients and moisture created a natural preservation process. In the final phase, the monk would enter a small stone chamber, seated in a meditative position. Here they chanted prayers and rang a bell daily to signal they were still alive. Once the bell stopped, the chamber was sealed, and the monk's body was left undisturbed for several years. When the chamber was reopened, if the body had remained intact, the monk was revered as a living Buddha, achieving the ultimate state of enlightenment. If not, the monk's efforts were still honored for their spiritual devotion. This practice, though no longer performed today, is a testament to the extraordinary lengths some individuals went to in pursuit of spiritual perfection. Death practiced in parts of Tibet, known as the death cleanse. This ritual is a blend of physical and spiritual cleansing designed to prepare both the body and soul for the afterlife. When someone passes away, their family members perform a series of ceremonial actions to ensure the deceased's soul moves peacefully into the next realm. The body is often washed, dressed in specific clothing, and decorated with symbolic items. These preparations symbolize the deceased's journey to the spiritual world and help guide their soul through this transition. However, what makes the death cleanse particularly unique is its focus on cleansing the remaining family members. The idea is that the family must rid themselves of any negative energy or emotions tied to the deceased's passing. This often involves purification rituals, such as bathing in special herbal waters, burning incense, and chanting prayers to cleanse both their minds and bodies of grief. The significance of this ritual lies in its holistic view of death. It's not just about the person who has passed, but also about the living, ensuring they are spiritually prepared to move forward. It serves as a reminder that death, while a moment of loss, is also part of the ongoing cycle of life, where both the living and the dead play integral roles. In many ways, the death cleanse offers a sense of closure. By purging the sorrow and negativity surrounding death, it provides a sense of peace and allows the family to honor the deceased with respect and dignity. Zoroastrians, the Tower of Silence. This practice dates back to the 5th century and was carried out as a means of dealing with the dead in a manner aligned with their religious beliefs. For Zoroastrians, the earth is sacred and should not be contaminated by death. Therefore, burial was not an option, as it would be seen as polluting the soil. Instead, the deceased were taken to a Tower of Silence, a raised circular structure designed for the sole purpose of disposing of bodies. Once in the tower, the body was left exposed to the elements. Vultures, in particular, were invited to consume the remains, completing the process of returning the body to nature. This practice was not meant to be morbid. It was a way of honoring the dead by allowing them to feed other living creatures, thus completing the cycle of life and death. The Zoroastrians believed that death was an inevitable part of existence, but the Tower of Silence was a way to treat it with reverence. By returning the body to nature in this way, they felt they were preventing the corruption of both the earth and the soul, offering both a clean departure and an ecological solution. Though this practice has largely faded today, the Tower of Silence stands as a unique example of how spiritual beliefs shaped funeral practices in ancient times. It's a ritual that questions our own understanding of death and challenges us to think about how we treat the bodies of those who pass.